why do we have less influence than the Jewish community? The Democrats you with a smile. The Republicans, they just say it in your face. Our imagination of leadership is this one-man rule. Rasul, before he died, unified all of the Arabian Peninsula with all the tribes under the message of La ilaha illallah. Can we dream of basically uniting some of them? Yes, we can.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. On this episode of i3 Pulse, we'll be delving deep into who is the lesser of two evils. Is it Trump or is it Harris? And why is it that Muslims continuously fall into the same trap? And why is it that Muslim voters continuously fall into the same trap? And can Muslims influence US politics and the political landscape similar to the Zionist lobby? And finally, long term, what should we even be doing? Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Bless you.
Alhamdulillah. So, Sheikh, $1 million question. Mehdi Hassan has been saying that the Democratic Party are the lesser of two evils because Trump is very bad and very messed up.
Yeah.
Who's the lesser of two evils? Trump or Harris?
So listen, to be honest, basically saying that the Democrats are the lesser two evils and so forth, I think in this specific race, I think Mehdi Hassan is like almost a lone voice. You know, we're sick and tired of basically this type of rhetoric, right? Like, I think Mehdi Hassan is a very smart guy. I don't think he's an idiot. I think he's a very smart, well-educated, very eloquent person, and he knows what he's doing. I think the American political system is built upon the idea of two parties where people keep switching between one and dissatisfied with the other. Okay? Perpetual cycle keeps people under a specific control and specific let's say it keeps the populace under a specific level of dissatisfaction, so they don't revolt against the system. You always keep giving them some hope. Oh yeah, the Republicans messed up. Let's go try the Democrats. Oh, the Democrats messed up. Let's try the Republicans. What did the Muslimin in America benefited from switching between parties? Nothing. People need to understand that basically those two parties are two sides of the same coin. And today, alhamdulillah, way more Muslims understand that. That's why lots of people, alhamdulillah, lots of influencers and leaders in the community are saying, vote green. Don't vote for either parties. Let's kind of discuss one thing here, basically. Those two parties, if you look at, let's go back for 25 years, right?
Okay.
George H.W. Bush, the father, right? He invaded Iraq in 1990, right? August 1990, invaded Iraq. What happened? He basically got disqualified. He lost the race, and the Clinton administration, which all Muslim bases supported, came in and took over. What did Clinton do? More wars, more sanctions, kept Iraq under 8 full years of sanctions where millions of people died under the Clinton administration. Babies and children starving to death in the millions. So the Muslim community got dissatisfied with the Democrats. So what did they vote in? The Muslims in America voted the biggest disaster in modern Islamic history, which is George W. Bush, who started basically a 20-year raid on the Muslim world, which continues until today. Invaded Afghanistan, slaughtered Muslims, terrorized the Muslims in America, terrorized the Muslims worldwide, in the West, in the East, everywhere. Who voted him in? Muslims. There was actually a group called Muslims for Bush. Most Muslims in the race in 2000 voted George W. Bush in. And actually the margin that Bush basically won was so small that actually the votes for the Muslims accounted for that, believe it or not.
Wow.
And then Muslims got dissatisfied with the Republicans during George W. Bush. Who did they vote in? Supermajority voted for Obama. What did Obama do? Another 8 years, just like Clinton, another 8 years of the same wars in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and he added 5 more countries that he bombarded and devastated. Libya and Yemen or Sudan. Obama dropped 150,000 bombs in his 2 terms. So Obama dropped 100,000 bombs compared to George W. Bush, who was very cute. He was very cute. He only dropped 30,000 bombs. 10 times more than drone attacks and assassinations and killings in the Muslim world.
SubhanAllah.
10 times more than George W. Bush. That's Obama for you.
Wow.
This is how it works.
That flies in the face of the smooth talker, the guy who's charismatic.
Obama never changed a single law that was introduced by George W. Bush in America. Nothing changed. The same terror, inside or outside, continued during Obama. It's just with a smile. That's the only difference. The Democrats, they kill you with a smile. The Republicans, they just say it in your face. That's the only difference, really. But the beautiful thing, alhamdulillah, is today, the Muslims have realized that this is the case. But even Trump. So what we need to understand, foreign policy in America has nothing to do with any of the parties. Has nothing to do with who's elected as president. The president does not create the foreign policy of the United States. This is dumb to even imagine.
Some people would, the regular Muslim would be like, well, Sheikh, the president is the commander-in-chief. They have the nuclear codes. They're the ones that the army, they point. And even to the point where they can actually start wars. I mean, they're supposed to use Congress to declare war, but they just start wars with their own wish. They can do assassinations, all this stuff. They have a kill list, all that stuff. So isn't it the president who is at the top of the chain?
No. This is the problem, basically. Us Muslims, since we've lived under tyrannical rules in the last couple hundred years, at least last 100 years. Our imagination of leadership is this one-man rule. Sadly, even our Islamic history is like that. There's just one-man show. That's the only type of leadership that we understand. That's the only perception that we see. In America, it's a country of institutions. There's tens of thousands of federal employees, government employees in the United States that make up the I think like over 8 intelligence agencies, the Department of Defense, the Department of State. All these institutions has thousands and thousands of employees, and the think tanks within the United States. There's over 1,000 think tanks only in Washington D.C. There's thousands of think tanks across the country.
And the military contractors.
No, but we're speaking about research at least. Yeah, these are so all these people are part of the planning and the research so all these thousands of people within the intelligence agencies, within the State Department, the Department of Defense, the think tanks, and the Army itself, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, and all the research comes together and trickles up to the president as literally options. This is the options we have. We need to basically move with, and there's a recommendation. Like these options come with the recommendations. You see what I'm saying? So it's not one person that's basically chooses we're going to do this and do that. The United States is a very sophisticated country from a planning and execution perspective. It's stupid to even think that basically this one person has all say in America. It's not true. It is not true.
And that was a government piece. Then there's the corporations, the defense contractors, so many things to play.
Many things are definitely huge.
My goodness. So when you phrase it like that, it just feels like a huge machine. Really, it's a machine.
Humongous, not huge. Huge is small, really. And this is what we need to understand. That's why the foreign policy of the United States does not change based upon party, winning election. It does not change. Like even between Trump and Biden, all the criticism for each other on foreign policy perspective, nothing changed. Trump came in and put so much tariffs on slammed so much tariffs and taxations on Chinese companies and China for import-export. Biden continued with every single policy. The Trump administration basically all the way it treated the EU with pressuring them to commit to NATO and the 2% GDP military expenditures over all that basically Biden administration kept exactly the same. So administrations just built upon each other's, policies. They don't go change things. You can't. It's not a game to change foreign policy. You see what I'm saying?
SubhanAllah, this shows our absolute ignorance, Sheikh, because when you put it together as a full-on, connecting the dots, it's so obvious. But people would still say weird statements like Trump is anti-war, and he literally helped slaughter 30,000 Yemenis, our brothers and sisters in Yemen in 1 year, in 2018, the most bloodiest year in the Yemen civil war. Now, to push another point, let's say, just that Mehdi Hassan brought up, he mentioned that Ben Gvir, Netanyahu are looking for a Trump presidency. And so he said that, if we vote, if we don't support the Democrats, we are giving the Netanyahu and Ben Gvir, the Israeli government, what they want, which is a Trump presidency. And he adds another thing where even recently, so Trump got off a phone call with Netanyahu, and he went to the press and he said that I have an issue with Harris and Biden. because they're not letting Netanyahu do whatever the heck he wants, and this is what he believes in doing. So, and he's saying Iran is, which is so odd. Iran is trying to assassinate me, and if Iran does something, the whole might of America is going to go on you. So it seems that there's a concern that Trump might start a war with Iran. Trump is, going to give Netanyahu. He's not going to end the war, but he's going to make it worse. So the Democrats have allowed the war, but Trump will make the war worse. And what's happening in the genocide in Gaza? What do you have to say about that?
No, this is false. This is not true. Again, look, you need to understand. Sadly, like, how do we know this from history? We just showed you basically Bush the father, Clinton, Bush Jr., Obama, Trump, and Biden. There's continuity of foreign policy. Now there could be changes in terms of implementation. For example, sometimes basically, the Democrats and the Republicans, they might play good cop, bad cop. Now, nothing changed with Iran, for example. There's different needs from Iran that might make the administration treat them in a specific way. They want independence in their foreign policy from the United States. So we'll show you here a quotation again by Netanyahu, speaking back to Trump, saying that no, sir, Israel will always do what's in the best interest in Israel and not in the United States. And this was speaking to Trump. You see what I'm saying? Now, would the Trump administration use different techniques? Maybe Netanyahu could deal with the Trump administration differently. But at the end of the day, the United States has one single goal, and that goal is not going to change whether basically Biden or Harris are there or Trump. This needs to be understood. You understand? And to be honest, basically, okay, let's put this away. Maybe some people might have a hard time understanding this point. The Biden administration gave everything Netanyahu wants, everything. And then they never stopped any export of any type of military assets, whether bombs, missiles, equipments, anything. What could Trump do more? And that's why, by the way, as I said, I'm going to say it one more time, the likes of Mr. Mahdi Hassan are now lone voices in America and in the Western world. The Ummah have grown politically and understood that both parties are as evil as each other. You see what I'm saying? And that's why many people are saying vote green. And this is what I would recommend for those who want, look, at the end of the day, the voting issue is an issue of difference in opinion amongst the Muslims. Some would basically, some would say we should not vote. And not voting is a powerful tool. I'll tell you why. But the others who do want to vote are saying, let's go green. Right now, the statistics from a Muslim organization that does polling on Muslim trends and votes, saying 30% are going to vote green, 30% are going to vote Democrat, and 11% are going to vote Trump. So my recommendation for those who wants to vote, to unify the vote and go green. If they care about Muslim affairs internally and externally. So
this relates to something that Imam Tom Fakini, our brother Sami Hamdi as well, both of them, and many others have been mentioning, Yasser Qadi, that Muslims, the voting for Democrat, that the voting for the third party or Green Party is not as a vote to get something done. It's more of a vote or a tool to punish the Democrats for supporting genocide.
Yes, and we should. I think Muslims in America and Muslims in the West, we need now to be able to use our power to punish these representatives through the political process. Those of us who don't believe voting is permissible, or who believe voting is fine, but those of us who believe voting is impermissible, or for those who believe that they should abstain to vote, even if they believe voting is fine, they're actually making a bigger statement than voting for the Greens. Maybe a more important statement. They're making a stance of no confidence to the whole process and to the whole system, which is important. So anyway, whether basically people are going to do a no confidence vote, which is a vote of or not voting, or voting green, these are the only two things I would recommend.
So some would argue that not voting at all would be less effective or more harmful than voting green. Like, for example, there might be certain areas where to punish the Democrats, you would vote in a representative, or your votes for the Green will take away from the votes from the representative, the Democrats. And it's better that way to show that, okay, here is that category of discontent voters against the Democrats, so that it will help bolster the Green Party, and then now the Democrats will be willing to kind of play more ball at the Republicans as well in the future to kind of keep the system as two parties instead of three. Because if they get 5% of the popular vote, they can now get match funding from the federal government
the funding,
and so on.
The funding. Look, at the end of the day, our problem is not basically maybe like there are certain things that we should fix, which is understanding the foreign policy does not change with the party. But there's the other thing is like us having a unified vote. We've never had that to a certain extent. Or when we had it, it went to the wrong place. This is a problem. We're not effective. Maybe the Muslim should vote on the basis of personas, the person himself. Is that person going to vote for us in these parliaments in ways that protects us or not? Doesn't matter if they're Democrats or Republicans or Greens. That's one way of taking the strategy. Or, at least for this specific elections, voting Green to show the power of Muslim vote within America, that we can actually punish the Democrats because they didn't listen to us. But without a strategy, we're going to continue to be like circling around ourselves.
So speaking of strategy, it is so sad and devastating that politicians in the U.S. and all over the world feel that calling for a ceasefire against genocide is a greater liability for their political careers because of the Zionist lobby.
Well, why is that?
Well, the Zionist lobby.
It's because of AMPAC.
Yes. So
exactly.
What can we? So again, why is it that? I mean, we have a higher number of population. Why is it that we weren't able to be effective and they're 2% and they were able to be the Zionists?
The Jewish community is 2%. We are way more than that.
Yes.
We are way more than that, actually. Like I think we were 3.5% in the formal statistics, which I think is deflated, by the way. In 2017, we're probably 5% right now, and that's official numbers. Probably we're even more than that. Some Muslim stats surveys put the Muslims in America at 8%. But whatever, like it's always more. Why do we have less influence than the Jewish community? Because the Jewish community does two things. Number one, they have resources, and number two, those resources and the people are organized. Why don't we have an AMPAC, an American Muslim Public Affairs Council? Where is our AMPAC? Where is it? But see, to create an AMPAC, you need to unify the Muslims within a vision. AIPAC is united based upon the Zionist vision. There's an idea that unifies most of the Jewish community in America under the wings of AIPAC, right? Where's the vision, the national vision, that unifies the Muslims in America? Where is it? You see what I'm saying? And this is what we're lacking. I believe Muslims, not just in America, in the West in specific, and the Muslim Ummah in general, we must all together, because we have one deen. Our biggest problem again today, as Muslims in general, but specifically also in the West, is that we differ on what Islam really is. Is Islam just a religion, and then politics is something we need to figure out? Or actually Islam is a system of governance, system of life that we need to live by, a system that we need to dream of to have. This is a system of justice that we want to see and live by one day in our lifetime. Which one is it? When Islam becomes so precious and we unify around an idea, then we can make our choices in politics as a unified collective. But right now you have every single Muslim sect is divided, every single masjid is divided from every other masjid. There is no unification because like when we make our benefit, as a community, the tool for unification, the glue that binds us together, well, sadly, benefit changes and benefit always fluctuates. That's why we have never. Many people are trying to unify the community. I can tell. Look, I'm going to be frank. There are lots of sincere Muslim leaders in America, in the West, in the UK, who are trying to unify the Muslim vote, trying to unify the Muslim community. But they always failed. Why? Because the unification was based upon an idea that's fluid, which is benefit. Because your benefit might not be mine. Or today our benefit is the same, but tomorrow I get swayed with another factor that impacts my benefit. You see what I'm saying? But what's going to bind us together is that one eternal understanding of Islam. There's a system that we need to establish. It's a deen that must be established. When we unify on that, khalas, we're always going to be together because we're one ummah now. We have this one vision that doesn't change. When we reduce Islam to just mere religion, then we start asking, our lives, how we can live our lives. Everybody comes up with an idea. But when Islam specifies what life is all about, not just on a religious perspective, but on a national level. Khalas, we have one national objective. We're always bound together. It's not benefit. Doesn't matter if we don't have our benefit today. Maybe the Muslims in America can take a hit for their brothers and sisters in Gaza, for example. It might not be within their benefit, but they have a greater goal. But let's bind each other as a community first, as an ummah first, with that one single idea that Islam or Allah have revealed in Islam for us, and then we can really build an AMPAC and then have hopefully the rich people, the rich Muslims, they need to fund these projects. Nobody wants to spend anything. That's why some people, subhanAllah, they say, let's use the zakah money. It's as if the zakah money is going to be used for everything in the world. Astaghfirullah. First of all, it's haram to use zakah money for that. What's actually an obligation is for the Muslims who are rich to put the money today before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks them about it. So to fund an AMPAC, to unify the ummah on that one single idea, so we can function as an effective and efficient collective, as a community in America, in Canada, and the UK, everywhere else.
And Muslims, we are one of the highest giving communities globally, but we give to disaster relief and different things. There's so many things that are happening in our ummah, but we need to be very strategic. And on that question, the APAC analogy, some might think it might not be possible because we have to unify all these different groups of Muslims. And let's say Islam is something that has to do with our vision of has to be applied. It's not just our own personal spiritual perspective.
Okay.
But people might have different perspectives of what is the right way to move forward. And APAC is an arm of the Zionist state. Right, so this really is Israel is the one that really dictates where things are going. Muslims, we don't really have that. So, is this even possible for us to build this Muslim pack?
I believe we can. If we unify first the Muslimin on the same idea. At the end of the day, this differentiation that you brought is important. That's why people think it's just we build an organization. No. Definitely APAC, behind APAC is a whole state that has resources and lots of ways to serve and support this entity. That's why we need also the Muslim world, the Muslims in the Muslim world, to start supporting the Muslims in the West. You see what I'm saying? And that's why we need to invest in a more long-term plan. How can we basically get the Muslim world to also support us here, right? That being said, it's very important to understand what is our long-term strategy in the West as Muslims. There's around 50 million Muslims in the West, right? That's a good chunk of the Muslims, 2.5% of the whole Muslim ummah, right? But what do we want to do here? Now there's lots of us basically. We should have a vision of making the Muslim world a peaceful place, a place that's prosperous, a place that is scientifically advanced, a place that maybe we can go back to, a place that we can call home at least. Our first home. This could be, if people want to say this is home, at least make it a second home, for God's sake. I don't want to debate people. The Muslim world should at least be a second home for people who are residing in the West. Number two, Muslims in the West are not here to change the systems that we're living by. We're not trying to change America. We're not trying to change the UK. We're not trying to change Canada. We're not trying to change any of these countries. We need to realize that, and I truly believe that basically Muslims in the West are like the Muslims in Abyssinia. Their goal was not to change the system.
So in terms of not changing the system, how would that square with us trying to punish the Democrats for supporting genocide?
There's difference, a huge difference. We need to secure ourselves. Our basic rights as Muslim citizens in the West is being trampled. So we will basically use every legal means, political and media and so forth, to make sure that our community is safe from the encroachment of the Trumps and the Bidens of the world. You see what I'm saying? And that's why we must organize this is where the strategy comes in. What's our strategy? Our strategy is to safeguard ourselves and to also spread the da'wah and make Islam basically, you see, non-Muslims, when we were living within the non-Muslim world, they have a right upon us. We care about them, right? And if we care about them and they have right upon us to show them the light of Islam, we have to express Islam in a modern, not a modern meaning basically modernist, like meaning in a way that the modern person understands. To do tajdeed from a perspective of expressing Islam as a system that solves their problems. Like, for example, how does Islam solve the issue of homelessness? There's lots of homeless people in the West. How does Islam solve the issue of poverty? How does Islam solve the issue of the huge gap between the super rich and the poor in America? Who's expressing Islam as a solution for everyday American? This is what we're speaking about. You see what I'm saying? Those two things should be a medium-term strategy. Us organizing, unifying to defend our basic rights as citizens in the Western countries. Number two, we need to, and this is aside from the political work, to explain Islam as a system of life, as a deen, as a solution for everyday problems to the average Westerner, American, Canadian, British, and so forth.
So we mentioned securing our rights, and we mentioned da'wah in terms of, the right that people have upon us.
Correct. As a medium-term strategy.
Now, some would argue that you had the anti-Vietnam War movement that helped the U.S., end the U.S. involvement in Vietnam and changing the opinion within society for, support behind these invasions and different things. Is there a way, of course, U.S. policy is going to remain U.S. policy, foreign policy, but is there a way where we can reduce the level of interference? Maybe if people are slaughtering, let's say, 30,000 people, maybe less than that, maybe conditioning aid. Is there something that we can do as securing not only our rights, but securing the rights of different Muslims all around the world, civilians, human beings, and everyone?
Look, at the end of the day, if we can impact the foreign policy of the United States in any way or shape, we must be organized. Like right now, with the split of the votes, right now the Muslims are voting basically almost like, some are going to Trump, some for Harris, some for the Green, and some basically are going to abstain. We are in a big mess. We have zero impact right now. You see what I'm saying? So we need to focus on that. Look, people want a baby in a couple of weeks. Baby takes 9 months. This is the problem. Nobody wants to invest in the hard work. The hard work is opening a dialogue. We at the I3 initiative, we have a conference this Saturday. So in 3 days, it's called the Unity Conference. We're bringing imams from the United States, from Canada, from everywhere, with different backgrounds, without naming names of schools of thousands of, to come together so we can start discussing unification and unity and synchronization and having, can we love each other? We can't say, this is politics. The politics is based upon us unifying ourselves. To unify ourselves, we need to start building bridges amongst ourselves first and foremost. Sadly, every section of the community is so hard that we are special. We are the way. How about basically we say the way is us coming together, sitting together? How many people, we have a strong cancel culture in our community. And that means basically we're not communicating, because cancellation is the opposite of communication. So we can't isolate that, for politics. People don't want to speak about that when they get into the politics. But that's a secular mentality. Mostly it's a secular liberal political activist from the community who thinks like that. And that's why we have the results we have. So we need to go deal with the basic fundamental problems on a structural perspective within our community, so we can become impactful and effective politically.
So, Sheikh, we spoke and you alluded to the long-term solution. You brought it up. Some would say that the long-term solution is about presenting Islam as an alternative system that can solve the problems of Western society and Western civilization. And this is where we need to focus on. You present Islam as one of the ideas on the public square, and there's liberalism on the public square. Number one, is that something we should be doing long term? And secondly, if not, what is a long-term solution?
No, saying that this is long-term solution is problematic. This is more like short-term and medium-term. We should always basically do da'wah while we're here, basically. But when we say it's a long-term, that means basically we're going to stay here and just give da'wah. Is this being said under the umbrella of saying that we want to change the people and the system? As I said earlier, we are within an Abyssinian phase in the West. That means our job is not to change the system. We keep the system as it is. Let these people basically choose it. And we as a minority basically just want to make sure that we're secure. But we should have as a nation a long-term plan. What is our long-term plan? If we're going to continue to be like 5% of the West, right? Which is a minority, small minority, we're not going to be able to change everything. And we're not supposed to be doing that. Where should change happen from a long-term perspective? The Muslim world. We should aspire to have a Muslim world that can become our, home. How do we basically work together to make this Muslim world a prosperous, peaceful, secure, technologically and scientifically advanced place that runs by the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This should be the goal of every Muslim. If we don't instill that in the Muslimin, we're not going to be able to do much, really. And what does that mean? Does that mean that we need to pack and go to the Muslim world? No, that's not true. It's definitely not true. But we have to have that dream, and we need to have that long-term vision. And that means basically we need to carry the da'wah and make sure that the Muslimin here understand this vision of Islam. And the Muslim Ummah is one body. So, there has to be this collaboration between the Muslims in the West and the Muslims in the East. Even throughout basically, all means of communications, basically. When this Ummah becomes one unified Ummah, and mind and heart, then you will see the unification from a political perspective as a result. And this is not a task of a month or two or a year or two. This might be 2-3 decades, right? But the most important thing is for people to believe that this can happen in your lifetime, especially our youth. I mean, our youth who are in their teenage years or their early 20s or mid 20s or even late 20s. They need to believe it 100% that this is definitely not just could, it will happen during their lifetimes. So they need to understand what is their role so they can participate at an ummah level with their Muslim brothers and sisters worldwide for this ambition, inshallah.
Some people are, and to draw this podcast to a close, I've heard the sentiment where people have lost hope, they're helpless, they're pessimistic, and they feel that even if we want to long-term change and build unity in the Muslim world, the imperial powers, their hands and their arms are right into our, in our backyards back home. And what message do you have for people who are hopeless, pessimistic, especially considering the past year? People are losing their energy. People are losing their motivation. People feel like they're just about to break and give up. What's your message to them?
My message is the message of the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam have been able to do something nobody else have done before. Nobody in history. Unify Arabia. Like, you need to understand, these were tribes. It was a tribalistic system. Each tribe saw itself as unique and special and distinct from everybody else. You can't come to my tribe and say we're one. It just doesn't make sense. It just does not make any sense. Rasulullah, before he died, unified all of the Arabian Peninsula with all the tribes under the message of La ilaha illallah. Today we have 57 Muslim majority countries. Can we dream of basically uniting some of them? Yes, we can. How? Like the Rasulullah did it. There will always basically be Muslim leaders in the Muslim world at different level of leadership that want independent, dream of independence from the Western hegemony. These types of dreams must be instilled in the Ummah until they become a public opinion. Before you request it from one person or another, we should make this a public request. This should become a public sentiment where Pakistan must be independent. Why is Pakistan reliant on Western financial assistance, Western military products? Western or Eastern, doesn't matter whether it's China, Russia, or Europe or United States. The same thing with Egypt, same thing with all these countries. They must be, even Saudi Arabia, they must become independent. So us speaking about being independent and being self-sustainable and self-sufficient from a food supply perspective, from an energy supply perspective, from all type of needs, economic and non-economic. This is what we need to be spreading. The minute we get engaged in building such sentiment and thought process within the Ummah, the more we're going to basically be, we're going to enhance our ability to see, inshallah ta'ala, as we said, the change happen in our own lifetimes, which will happen bidnillah ta'ala, definitely.
Inshallah ta'ala. Well, Shaykh, jazakumullah khairan, and your words bring inspiration to my heart, and I'm sure to the hearts of all the viewers. So Jazakallah khair, everybody. We'll see you all on the next episode of the i3 Pulse. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and put down below what would you like us to discuss on the upcoming episodes. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
What's that?
Okay, so